Hello everyone and welcome to another brand new video. Today in this video we'll be talking about why the benchmarks of GTX 1080 is slightly misleading and why actually is more powerful than what's being shown in the benchmarks. To know exactly what I mean, make sure you watch the video till the end and don't miss out any important points. GTX 1080 benchmarks are all over the internet now, and yes, it's been quite a while since I waited for others to point this out. I have already made a post on the AbsTechie Facebook page pointing these facts out, as most people only understand benchmark numbers. If you haven't liked the page yet, make sure you like it for all tech and gaming updates that don't fit into the channel here. The link will be in the description. With that being said, let's get started. Nvidia's CEO mentioned in the press conference that the GTX 1080 is going to be faster than the Titan X, and yes, the 1080 didn't disappoint. It easily beats out the Titan X in all the games. Also, it did beat the GTX 980 SLI in most games as well. So that is a $700 card that is beating out the Titan X that cost $1000. Also, it's just a reference model for $700, which means the board partner cards will be $100 cheaper and will come with better cooling system and more performance. Now I would say it's quite impressive that a $600 card will beat the $1000 Titan X without a problem. But here comes the exciting part. All the games that are released up to now are optimized for the Maxwell architecture, and the Maxwell drivers are much more optimized for those games. So the previous gen cards like the GTX 980, 980 Ti and Titan X are benefiting from those driver updates and optimization for Maxwell. On the other hand, you have the new release GTX 1080 built on the Pascal architecture. None of the games currently tested were optimized or developed for Pascal. Also, the drivers used currently are not optimized for the Pascal architecture. Finally, in all the benchmarks, the GTX 1080 stock or slightly overclocked was compared with the decently overclocked Titan X and GTX 980 Ti. In the press conference, the GTX 1080 was shown to run at 2.1 GHz, so it clearly shows the GTX 1080 has a lot of overclocking potential, which was not used at all in the current benchmarks. With all advantages on the Maxwell side, the Pascal GTX 1080 still managed to beat them with all some distance, so you can expect a lot more performance when Pascal optimized games and drivers drop. You can get a much clearer idea of how much driver updates influence current game performance when you compare the GTX 780 with the GTX 970. GTX 780 and GTX 970 are very similar video cards in performance and specs, but you will see the GTX 970 beating out the 780 with quite some distance in current games when you update to the latest driver. Try the drivers released at the time of GTX 780 and you'll see both the cards performing with a FPS difference of 2 to 3 from each other. Why? Of course, it's because of the driver optimization for Maxwell that makes the GTX 970 beat the 780 by a distance when using the latest drivers. Also, soon the softwares for overclocking will be unlocked with updates and the GTX 1080 can be overclocked to its full potential. Finally, GTX 1080 will perform a lot better in DirectX 12 games in the future compared to the Maxwell Titan X. The card is more developed for DirectX 12 and low-head APIs. So as time goes and Pascal optimized games and drivers are released, you will see the GTX 1080 beating the Titan X and GTX 980 Ti by quite some distance. The GTX 1080 is like a whole new level for price and performance ratio for a video card. It's actually very powerful, as Nvidia claimed. There are a lot of people who don't seem to understand how GPU optimization and drivers help performance, so I felt the need to make a video like this and explain that a new released card is not optimized as well as a card that's been released for a while. Also, with all the other limitations I mentioned earlier, the GTX 1080 still manages to put up a great performance. So there shouldn't be any doubt about how powerful the Pascal architecture and GTX 1080 is, and the benchmarks kindly shown doesn't quite represent how powerful the card will be in a small amount of time in the future. It's been a long rambling video, and if you learned a new thing or two, then don't forget to hit that like button. Also, if it's your first time to the channel, then subscribe and help me cultivate a better PC gaming community with more informative computer tech and gaming videos like this. I am AbsTechie and see you later.